looked like your own daughter, but wasn't.
Why don't you imagine you had two daughters?
It's gone. The thing we feared the most, the key. I think we're saved.
Chapter 36, The Abyss. As they approach closer to the Abyss, Momo detects a large mass getting out in the gap that they need to fly through. It's a giant Utic station, I think. It's either that or a weirdly shaped ship. Then again, isn't a station just a really big ship? Anyways, I'm gonna go with Space Station. The station is taking up the entire gravity gap so they can't fly through it. So they decide that if they can't move around it, they will have to make it move by going inside it and taking Utic out from the inside. Tony charges in, evading shots from the Utic ships protecting the station. They manage to get close, but it's not without taking a hit, which turns the Elsa and flings everyone forward, but Cosmos grabs and saves Xion using her sticky shoe technology. Then the Elsa makes a graceful landing. The group make their way through what is called the Oldman Stronghold using their ES crafts. This is when we were introduced to another of my favorite ESs. And by introduced, I mean they just stick it in your party without saying anything. This is ES Zebulon, and it's the only ES that can use its ether attacks, which is like the magic spells of Xenosaga. After some unreasonably slow walking, Richard and Herman ambush them yet again. At one point, Richard uses the gun that even Herman begs them not to use, as it's not a gun to be used inside. But Richard is a bit unhinged.
Richard, you can't use that weapon in here! Stay back! Richard, please stop! Richard, come on! Destroy everything!
Regardless, our heroes defeat them, and then, after more slow walking, obnoxious puzzles, our heroes getting out of their ES and then more lame puzzles. God, I fucking hated this piece. We get to what is a special boss fight for me. Orgula, or consider that her name was based after the Spanish word for pride. Maybe it should be Orgulla. Someone that gets on Junius's nerves real quick.
Come in, you filth.
What?
Now, confess your sins. I will listen to anything. Even from the mouths of foul beasts like you.
You damn bitch!
Now, why is this a special boss fight for me? Well, because it is the boss fight that defeated me. This boss fight is the reason I've never finished Xenosaga 2. Yep, I admit it. Xenosaga 2 is the only game I haven't finished. I got to this point and gave up. I restarted the whole game, got to this point again, and gave up again. And then I just watched a let's play of the rest. Orgulla is an Ormus cyborg with split personality disorder due to experiments that Stellars may have had a hand in, as when she switches personalities in battle, she says,
Damn you, Stellars!
In her regular form, she has green eyes and wields a single-handed energy sword with a dagger. Then, when she switches to her alternate personality, Mains,
Stay out of his name!
Her eyes become blue, and she wields a large two-handed sword. She's a pretty interesting boss fight, but she was just too much for me. After defeating Orgulla, the group find the central core of the stronghold and activate the self-destruct mechanism, which gives them 30 minutes to escape, because for some reason it has a self-destruct mechanism. The group run back the way that they came, and when they reach the top, they're ambushed by Pellegrini inside ES Issachar. Pellegrini, who's tired of her subordinates failing her, decides to do the work herself. Despite the fact that Pellegrini is their superior though, the fight with Pellegrini is actually not that hard. After the fight, Pellegrini flies off as the stronghold begins to fall apart and the group hurry back to the Elsa. Unfortunately, the Elsa can't seem to lift off because the logical drive was damaged, which seems to be the go-to reason for every ship malfunction in this series. As the stronghold falls apart, pieces of it and other ships begin to slam and explode around the Elsa. Despite everything they try, which isn't much, they can't get the Elsa to move. As they begin to realize that they're gonna die by getting sucked up into the abyss, some kind of energy beam grabs and lifts the Elsa. It's a Durandal operated by Mary and Shelley. Tony and Hammer seem to be very excited to be alive. Apparently, Ganem told Mary and Shelley to go assist Junior, as he knew that if left alone, Junior would end up doing something reckless. Afterward, the Durandal departs as the Oldman Stronghold falls into the abyss, and the abyss disappears for some reason. I don't know. I guess it has served its plot purpose. Over in 5th Jerusalem, the capital of the Federation, we see Gainem seemingly in pain as he has a flashback to when he was a kid. This is the flashback when we learn that Negredo is an executioner whose purpose is to kill the Red Dragon. This is also the flashback when we see him kill Dmitry Yuriev. Gainem's pain seemed to worsen until he eventually falls to the ground, at which point his hair starts turning white and he begins to glow. Dmitry Yuriev has entered the forefront. After 14 years, his consciousness has finally recovered and he has taken over Negredo. He immediately makes a call to his Salvatore faction. With this call, he gets a summary of everything he's missed the last 14 years. Then Dmitry tells the Salvatore faction dude to ready his forces. Back at the Durandal, Shelley tells Junior that the immigrant fleet is already on Milsha, so they have to hurry up or Utic will get to Zohar before they can. Helma calls him and tells Junior that although the Federation has already been deployed, they can't make any large-scale invasions as long as there's a possibility that Utic already has the Zohar. Otherwise, it could be a repeat of the Milshan conflict. Unfortunately, this means that Junior and the rest are pretty much alone. Chapter 37, Old Milsha. Junior and the rest descend to Old Milsha, specifically in the capital, Dasgupta. There, Junior notes how it feels like time has stopped in this world as everything is exactly as it was 14 years ago. Chaos makes a comparison to the ancient land of Mu, or Atlantis, reciting a line from a Mayan manuscript.
The country of the hills of mud. The land of Mu was sacrificed. Being twice upheaved, it suddenly disappeared in one night. At last the surface gave way, and they sank, along with their countries.
What's that?
A fairy tale. A story about a land that vanished into the sea one night long ago.
Once they get close enough to their destination, Labyrinthos, they land and continue on in their ESs. The group make their way through the flooded ruins of Old Milsha. Eventually, they find a crashed ship and they hear a familiar voice coming from it.
Why is this damn thing not working?
External speakers?
But we're all exhausted from training earlier. May I?
Listen to me! What you think means nothing! What you want means nothing! You do as I say! I am the boot in your buttocks! You! What is your problem? Were you born that dumber that your drunk mama slapped you on the wrong end when you squirted out? Why are you laughing? Do I amuse you? I'm tired of all you panty-waist nitwits. You make me physically ill. Drop and give me $1 million. I will break you.
Listen up! You lazy bums are the cause of that accident!
It's Vanderkam. Yeah, you thought he was just a throwaway character in Xenosaga 1, didn't you? Nah. You think a character with a face like this would be a throwaway? Anyway, they eventually realize that they have enemies walking literally on them.
Damn it! Found us!
Well, yeah, Junior. You guys were just standing there. Anyways, they start to battle with the ship, which, because it's crashed, feels more like you're battling a submarine. The team defeat him and go on their merry way. They eventually make it to Labyrinthos, and inside they go to a room that will allow them to scan the data Jin placed in Kanan's head 14 years ago. Finally, they will find out who was really behind the Milshan conflict. Jin explains to the rest what's in this data, telling everyone that just because everyone believes Joachim was behind the Milshan conflict doesn't mean that's the truth. So they scan the data in Kanan's head and they finally get some answers. Answers we already know. So we won't be getting any surprises. Jin tells the group that what he has learned. They learned that UTIC was being funded by Hayam's Heavy Industries, a company that I've talked about before. It's a competitor to Vector, which is headed by the same CEO as Vector, Wilhelm, under the name Heinlein. But our group has never heard about it until now. They also learned about the head of this Hayam's group, which, like I said, was Heinlein. And they learned that he's a cardinal of the immigrant fleet. So they learned that UTIC is funded by this Hayam's group, and the leader of Hayam's is a cardinal of the immigrant fleet. This is when they realized that the immigrant fleet and UTIC are actually connected. As before, it wasn't a 100% clear thing. Jin, however, assures Momo that her father Joachim was most likely being used, which is kind of true. To sum it up, this is when they learn about Hayam's Heavy Industries, Heinlein, and most importantly, for Momo at least, that Joachim Mizrahi was not the madman that he had been portrayed as, and he actually tried to save the galaxy from Udu and the Zohar.
Your father tried to save the world you were about to be born into. And then he entrusted his secrets to you, the one he could trust most.
Daddy?
This is when they learn that the immigrant fleet is not some innocent religious group. If they're associated with UTIC, that means that if they acquire the Zohar, they'll probably cause another incident like the Milton conflict. Now they know that they definitely cannot let the immigrant fleet have the Zohar, as the immigrant fleet and UTIC are one and the same. As Jin stays behind to send the data to Helmer, the rest of the group begin making their way to where the Zohar is. On the way out, they encounter Margulis. Ziggy recognizes him from when he rescued Momo. Margulis angers Rubido by calling him a URTV and then tells him that they have already acquired the Zohar, even saying that they are fully aware of what will happen if they keep tampering with it.
The annoying Gnosis, as well as a few pathetic weed-like humans, who are arguably even more worthless than the Gnosis, are going to disappear. Just like Ariadne.
You bastard!
Showing just how little he cares for the consequences of their actions. Margulis attacks with a fire attack from a sword, but is deflected by some kind of ice projectile. It is of course Jin. After some banter, the two swordsmen engage in battle. By the way, this is why I knew that the fire and ice powers came from the men and not the swords. At one point, Margulis takes Jin's sword and he uses it, and you can see fire coming from it. So the element depends on the person wielding it. Not that it matters. Anyways, Jin takes back his sword, and they continue to fight, but it ends in a draw. Eventually, the rest of the team joins in the battle, and they manage to exhaust Margulis, at which point Herman shows up in his ES and rescues them. Now the path to the Zohar is in front of them. Xion and the rest make it to the room where the Zohar Link experiment is being conducted. Here lies Cecily Cath, Proto-Omega, and inside Proto-Omega, the Zohar. Cosmos notes that she is detecting faint life signs in the capsules in front of them, Realians. They get close, and what they see is two capsules with the names Cecilia and Catherine on them. It's Feronia's sisters. However, what Xion didn't expect was to find them in such a horrifying, mangled form. Cecily and Cath are both hooked up with wires to the Zohar link system, the limbs missing and their skin looking like it's decaying. The look of them shocks Rubido and Xion and Momo. Xion, however, is hit the hardest. After the loss of her parents, her home world, the death of Kevin and her co-workers at the Woglinde, after seeing her creation coldly killing Virgil, and after witnessing Cherenkov become a Gnosis and then destroying his very existence moments after feeling his pain, Xion has finally had too much. Her mental stability starts taking a toll and she has a small breakdown.
I'm sick of all this! I can't take it anymore! I just can't! Ugh.
Chaos tries to find a way to help Cecily and Cath, but Cosmos confirms that they are fully fused with the system and have completely lost their individual consciousness. Essentially, they are one with the Zohar link system, and separating them would result in their complete shutdown. When Junior wonders why UTIC would do something like this, Patriarch Sergius reveals himself and tells them,
because using them in their natural state proved difficult. It was necessary to isolate their consciousness from the outside world.
Junior asks him who he is, but Jin seems to recognize him as the leader of the immigrant fleet. Patriot Sturgis tells him that there is no need for him to answer their questions. But okay, I'll do it. No, really. That's pretty much what he says.
There's really no need for me to answer questions from the likes of you. Very well.
It's honestly one of those most cliche bad guy things in the whole series, and it always makes me laugh. Anyways, Sergio tells them about their belief that the Zohar originally belonged to them, Ormus, and that ever since they have been the Zohar's guardians. Because of that, they have a right to use it however they see fit. This is the first time that Jin and the rest hear the name Ormus. Now Jin finally knows who the real enemy is, Ormus. They were the ones behind the Miltian conflict. We see just how misinformed of his organization Sergius is, as he says that Ormus has existed since before the crucifixion of Christ. Not just that, but the fact that they believe the Zohar has always belonged to them, and that they have had some kind of right to it. Seems even Patriarch Sergius drank the Kool-Aid, after Sergius tells them that their mission is to transcend humanity to a higher plane of existence. Xian berates him for what he has done to Cecily and Kath. Sergius tells her very plainly that there's tools serving their purpose, and Xian tells him that she refuses to accept this, at which point Sergius activates the Zohar and they all hear what Junior calls the voice of Udu.
It's the voice of Udu! Stop the system, now!
Cosmo steps forward in order to attempt to destroy the link system, which will cut the bypass to the Zohar. This means shooting down Cecily and Kath. Xian tries to stop her, but Cosmos is determined and tells her,
Xian, if you interfere, I will be required to take drastic measures.
Did she just threaten Xian? Wow, she's serious. Anyway, Xian keeps trying to stop her, but then time seems to freeze around her, and Fabronia appears behind Xian and calmly tells her to set her sisters free. Xian now understands. She understands that this is what Fabronia always wanted. Fabronia knew that the conditions that her sisters were in, and still she wanted Xian to set them free. She wanted Xian to kill her sisters. Xian once again has a small breakdown.
Why does it have to be me? Why did you call me? I won't do it! I can't do it!
Xian, you've always been this way. Such a kind child.
This whole time she thought she was on a journey to save Fabronia's sisters' lives, but in the end, it turns out that the only way to save them is to end their lives. Xian, accepting what she must do, composes herself and tells Cosmos to fire as she moves out of the way.
Fire!
Cosmos unleashes on Cecily and Kath's capsule. As the bullets tear the capsules apart, Sergius tells them how foolish they are, as the power he already has cannot be stopped. With that, Proto-Omega activates. Jin recognizes it, and Sergius tells them that with Proto-Omega, a symbol of overwhelming power, they will wipe out the Gnosis and rule the galaxy. Junior and Cosmos try to shoot Proto-Omega, but it's to no avail. The group is thrown back by blinding light, and Proto-Omega descends into a pit beneath it. As Labyrinthos begins to fall apart, the group hurry back and run back to the Elsa. There, they notice that it's not just Labyrinthos falling apart, it's all of Miltia. We see a gigantic pillar coming out of the city as it turns to ashes. The Elsa quickly flies up and far from Miltia, and we see some kind of enormous statue coming out of the planet. As it turns out, a whole structure is coming out of the planet, and as it does, Miltia is split apart and torn in pieces. As chunks of earth and magma fly out of the planet, Federation ships and AIMs are hit and melted. Taking this act as an act of war, the Federation fire upon Utic, and war officially starts. As the two groups continue firing upon each other, Miltia considers to be ripped apart until finally, giant wings come out of both sides of the planet, destroying all ships around it, Federation and Utic alike. Finally, we see what was coming out of it. A giant structure with a long thin body and two giant wings. This is the Omega system. And it leaves nothing of Miltia, save some chunks of earth floating around. As Xian and the rest look upon the ruins of Miltia, the Elsa flies back to the Durandal docked in the Kukai Foundation. Before continuing, let me just say the Omega system was most likely not man-made. There have been some ridiculously sized man-made objects in Xenosaga, but a planet-sized object built within a planet is probably not one of those things. Instead, the Omega system is most likely what happened once Patriarch Sturgis, who is a pure-blooded Abraxan, therefore having a strong affinity with the Zohar, communicated with Udu and transformed the planet from the inside out. The result was the Omega system breaking its way out of Miltia like a chicken coming out of an egg. Chapter 38: The Omega System. We see a Utic spy in the Federation Parliament on a call with Pellegrini. Then he looks over and is shot down by someone. Who? The reborn Dmitry Yuriev, who has now, through his reconnections in the Salvatore faction, taken control of the Federation Parliament. Pellegrini seems to recognize him and is surprised as he's supposed to be dead. Dmitry tells her that she won't allow Utic to continue with their sabotage of the Federation Parliament and to send Margulis a message.
I'm not going to die. Not now. Not ever.
So, does this mean he's a good guy? Maybe an anti-hero? No. Dmitry Yuriev and the Salvatores are a third faction in the story now. One hiding in the Federation but opposing both Ormus and the Federation. They have their own goals. Over in the Omega system, we see Sergius, who is prepared to counterattack the Federation reinforcements sent over to him. He tells Margulis to eliminate them with the Utic fleet, but Margulis laughs and tells him that he appears to have misunderstood the situation. Finally, after all these years of faking allegiance to Sergius, Margulis reveals that he and other Inquisitors serve another master, and that now everything's gone according to plan. All that's left is for him to die a martyr. Sergius immediately knows that his paranoia was well placed and that it's Heinlein whom Margulis speaks of. Without explaining anything, Margulis simply leaves Sergius on his own. Back in the Elsa, we see Xian crying by herself. Jin approaches her and tries to make conversation with her, but she just keeps telling him to leave her alone, yelling at him the second time. She tells Jin that she felt exactly as she did 14 years ago. Apparently she has started to remember her memories of Feb, as she recalls how Feb was killed right in front of her and she couldn't do anything, so she just ran. She feels like the same thing happened here, as she could do nothing to save Cecily and Kath and was forced to run. Jin explains to Xian that he believes the reason Feb gave her the painful role of setting Cecily and Kath free was because she loved Xian as a sister as well, and thus could only trust her to do such an important task. Jin tells Xian that she can withdraw from the world or learn to accept it, but either way she won't be alone. The conversation with her brother motivates Xian to get up and gather with the others. Xian walks out of the room. She hesitates as she stops to tell Jin something, like, I don't know, maybe thank you. But instead she just tells him that she will go on ahead. Jin is left by himself as he monologues. He calls himself hopeless, saying that he envies Fabronia as she was able to do for Xian what he, her brother, should have done. He now wonders what he can do to help Xian and what he can do about his own past. This all goes to show just how much he feels like he has failed Xian as an older brother. On the Durandal, one of the 100 series tells Junior that he has received a private transmission, but it's compressed as in an encrypted format, so they don't know who it's from. When Junior lets it go through, he gets an unpleasant surprise. It's his father, Dmitry. Junior calls him out for giving them a mission that he knew could end in the destruction of Miltia, but Yuriev tells him that if he could save the star cluster from Udu, then a planet is an acceptable loss. This is probably a good time to mention that I was wrong when I said that Dmitry knew that they weren't going to defeat Udu and that it was just an experiment to him. He really thought that there was a chance that it would work. He just didn't care if Miltia had to be destroyed for that chance to work. Sorry. The wiki has a lot of bad information, and I should have probably gone over this video before writing that part of the lore. Anyways, Yuriev tells Junior that now that Udu has the potential to reawaken, they must eradicate anyone trying to recontact Udu, and they know someone who is going to try just that. So Junior must head into the Omega system and eliminate the target. This target is our boy, Albedo. Junior tells him that he will atone for his past mistakes, not eradicating Udu, but he won't do it by killing Albedo. So instead, he will convince Albedo to stop his madness. Dmitry, who is really just scared of Udo reawakening, is okay with anything as long as it ends with Albedo not contacting Udo. Dimitri ends the call, and despite the resentment Junior holds for his father, it seems that he has no choice but to do what he tells him since, well, it's probably a good idea to stop Albedo. We then see Dimitri's consciousness fading as Negredo takes hold of his body again. Negredo simply says,
Junior, don't trust my words.
Why don't you just call him and tell him what's going on? God. The group make their way to the gargantuan Omega system, and inside they find a cathedral. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Then they finally find Sergius, who is just chilling in the same spot in front of Proto Omega and the Zohar. What has he been doing this whole time? They eventually hear Albedo's voice, who has taken a break from transcending to materialize in front of Junior and the rest. After Albedo tells Sergius that this power he holds belongs to him, Rubido calls out to him, seeming almost happy.
Albedo!
Yo, Rubido. You seem happy to see me.
Don't be stupid. How could I be happy?
After some back and forth between Albedo and Sergius, Albedo tries to fire some energy beams at Sergius. However, the barrier provided by the Zohar is too powerful, and instead, Proto Omega fires at Albedo, easily blasting him out of the air. The phase transfer cannon starts reducing Albedo down to particles, and Albedo says that even reducing him to particles won't make him disappear, essentially saying that he'll still come back, eventually. Before being completely atomized, Albedo tells Rubido the most amazing thing in the game.
Hey, Rubido, don't forget to breathe deep and inhale the particles that composed me.
Everyone stands shocked at the fact that someone actually managed to kill Albedo, and after Sergius mocks Rubido, Junior and the rest engage in battle with him. Compared to the other battles in the game, this battle is actually not all that bad, so of course our heroes defeat him. After the fight, Sergius decides that he's had enough and begins to charge Proto Omega's phase transfer cannon again to finally kill Junior and the rest. However, after charging for a few seconds, it simply stops. Sergius begins yelling in frustration, not knowing what's happening, and then we hear a voice saying,
"The Zohar does not exist for your sake."
It's the Testaments. The Testaments tell Sergius that he has overstayed his welcome, and without breaking a sweat, they just reduce Sergius and Proto Omega down to nothing. Only the Zohar is left behind. Then we see someone we haven't seen in a long time, Voyager. He notices Ziggy, and Ziggy, Jan Sauer, notices him too. Realizing who he is, Ziggy for the first time loses control of his emotions and goes in a rage trying to kill Voyager.
You! Voyager!
Ziggy!
Unfortunately, Testaments are simply way too powerful, and Ziggy goes down easily. Then the Testaments bring back Albedo, and immediately Albedo begins fusing with Udo's waves. Udo has awakened. With this, Cosmos does her duty and activates her tertiary weapon systems. This is honestly kind of underwhelming, as she only does this to block the Udo waves. As she does this, she tells Xion that the Elsa is headed towards them, and that if they destroy the wall next to them, they should be able to make contact with them. Hearing this, Ziggy gets up and decides to take this task upon himself. Momo tries to stop him, as he has taken too much damage, but Ziggy tells her that they can always repair his body. So Ziggy gives the wall one hard punch, and the wall shatters, along with his arm. Just as Cosmos said, the Elsa is waiting outside for them. As they escape, the whole Omega system disintegrates as Udo causes a space-time anomaly in the area.
Behold, Rubido! At long last my time has come! The time to join the eternal chain! The time to quench my thirst at the source!